With that said, I will call to the stage Marcos, Miguel, Rafael, and João. Everyone is here. It's always nerve-wracking until you figure out. So like I was saying, we have, to my left, we have Marcos Peigo, CEO and co-founder of Scala Data Centers. Okay. We then have Miguel Sequera, Head of Colocation for Business Development for Americas for AWS. We've got Rafael Segreira, I hope I said that right, LATAM Zone President for Schneider Electric. And finally, we've got João Manso Filho, Executive Superintendent of Bradesco. I will let you guys do a very quick introduction about each one of you, as well what your businesses do. Just a quick elevator pitch so everyone gets to know what you're up to in Latin America.
Good afternoon, everyone. Pleasure to be here, João, and congratulations for the event. Being used to meet you in London, and it's nice to see you in São Paulo as well.
Yeah, he's actually he's seen the big brother of this event.
Marcos, I'm co-founder and CEO of Scala and a senior advisor to DigitalBridge. We launched Scala 5 years ago, April 2020, in the middle of the pandemic, right after the lockdown. It's nice to see a lot of you here, current scholars, some former scholars. As part of the industry story, we have around 200 megawatts as of today, serving hyperscales. We changed the way the market was driven back in 2020 when we decided not to go for the traditional co-location, where you build first, then you share space among several customers, and then when you have 80% of occupation, you start building again. We decided to change the approach, seeing that the demand for hyperscales would come big to the country, not just by playing catch up. When you consider how much demand and capacity you have deployed in Europe and North America, we changed our offer from co-location to single tenant facilities, and that's what we've been building since 2020 in 4 countries, 17 different locations, focused on hyperscale customers with a different approach, industrialized construction, self-build engineering, a big group inside home. We have more than 700 employees dedicated to data center, and proud to be here helping the country in the region to succeed.
Still have a 6+ gigawatt pipeline already. Yeah, small one. And Miguel?
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for the invitation to Tech Capital. For me, it's exciting to be here with all the known faces. I've been in this journey with AWS for the last 8 years, building the infrastructure for Latin America. Right now, I'm the head of business development for the Americas, and I lead the real estate team for Latin America. It's a team of 32 people, 32 business developers, and we lead the end-to-end selection of land all the way down to the development of a property or a data center for the company.
And Rafael?
Thank you. So Rafael Segreira, I'm the CEO for Schneider for South America, not LATAM, but thank you for the promotion. Thank you for the invite, and I'm very happy to be with such a very nice group. So Schneider Electric, very quick, is a tech company in the area of energy management and automation. More than 100 countries, more than 130,000 employees across. $40 billion or 38.2 euros revenue last year, and more than 20% of this in the area of data center. So very happy to be here and looking forward for this conversation.
There's been some very interesting investments in manufacturing plants in the region from you as well. Yeah. And João?
Thank you for the invitation, João Manso. Glad to be here. Actually, I'm responsible for corporate clients at Bradesco. Digital infra is a sector that I've been covering over the past 5 years, so we see a lot of improvements during this period, but for sure we see a lot of opportunities to be pursued. So glad to be part of this panel. Thank you for the invitation.
What I like about this panel is that Miguel asks us for a party. I organize the party. Rafael brings the beer and he pays the bill. That's the perfect combination.
Yeah, I like the last one. But look, before we jump into discussing about Brazil and the region itself, I think we need to look into the global perspective of everything that's happening across the world. Because this is not a one-country game. This is going to be an international game for everyone. When you look into what's happening in the West, in the East, North America, all the changes in governments, all the changes in policies, how is that affecting Latin America? How do you prepare for that? Where does the policy land I mean, things like tariffs in the US, for example, how does that affect the region? How are you all preparing your businesses for all this?
If I may start, I think we need to separate this maybe in 3 or 4 big blocks of topics that we can discuss. So I think, first of all, it is and it will always be about competitiveness. So being able to deliver on time and on budget for customers with a global requirement, in the perspective of engineering, operations, and etc., but also in terms of pricing is the first thing. So, and this is all about the industry. So to build a data center at a competitive price, on budget and on time is our mission. It's the mission of all providers in this room. The second thing is the country needs to be competitive as well, or the region needs to be competitive to our customers to bring their gear to put into our data centers. And this is something that we cannot do by ourselves. Third, we need to have the resources to fund this big investment. So we are talking about roughly $12 million per megawatt for a hyperscale deployment. We are talking now in demands that vary from 20 to 100 megawatts per deal. That's a lot of money. So we need not only that the external financial sponsors, foreign financial sponsors, see this as an opportunity, but also that the local banks and the local institutions and the BNDES and etc. sees that an industry to be promoted. And last but not least is about understanding that the country and the region have a big opportunity to be part of the global landscape. And for that, it's not just about having power, it's not just about having space, it's about having regulation or the lack of regulation. It's on the extremities, there is no gray area here that allows for international data to be processed. So when we think about this gigawatt campuses, etc., let's be honest, there is no local demand for that. So when you think about Scala, we have 2 portfolios of land and power. We have one that is into the money, which is roughly 1.6 gigawatts of land and power that we know is going to be consumed over the next decade. And we have another 5 gigawatts that is completely out of the money. It's part of a dream where this country can be a global hub for international workloads. So being prepared for this, if that happens, is part of the game. But that requires more than the industry to cooperate. We need the governments, we need the ecosystem as a whole to participate. And the geopolitics on that, I think Latin America has a history of neutrality. And this is something that we need to keep to be able to work to the west and to the east, enabling infrastructure that will be green, that will be sustainable, that will be connected with the communities the way it should.
You would actually probably be surprised how much South America is coming across conversations. This has nothing to do with data centers now, but how much South America is coming across in conversations about World War III, and people looking for places in South America if there's a nuclear war. This is happening. Like in Europe, people are having these conversations, and Chile, Argentina are coming up first in terms of land buying. But coming back to the topic, Miguel, Rafael, like João, how do you guys see the changes in the world affecting the region?
Well, I think Marco, you say big part of the thing. I will say the competitive landscape in terms of geographies, for fighting for this investment is getting tougher. So I fully agree, and you all know that Brazil have all these very nice characteristics, and we need to leverage. Have the challenge also of getting this regulation and this law approved quick, and facilitate to make things more attractive to investors. I think they are in the right way, but need speed. And this is, for people in this business, speed is must. And then you have other nations that are probably running faster, and attracting this investment faster and making the dreams. I agree. Probably we don't have yet this market, but the dreams are getting, in some areas, Middle East, to name it, where we are seen as a global company, this investment, going a little bit faster. I would say, it will require for a company like ours much more agility. Okay, where to put the resources? Well, it's a matter of resource allocation. Is a matter of agility. Where you go, where your customers are moving or deciding what are the criteria that are making this decision. And so you need to be closer to them, follow this, but eventually even drive this decision. And what I like of what Marco is saying is we need all collectively to play a role, try to make sure that governments and all institutions that have a role to play to facilitate this and make it more attractive, get it and go faster on the implementation of this decision that will favor this. So environment will require much more agility and speed.
Would you, João, Miguel, like to add anything?
I'll add up. I think Jeff Ferry in the previous presentation and panel, he put a very good example. Maybe we're participating in the World Cup, and it's no longer how fast technology is evolving, but how quick every country is reacting and being able to set up the framework so you can implement the kind of infrastructure that we need to get at the speed we need. So in terms of Brazil, for example, Brazil is well positioned in parts of the supply chain, access to capital, access to infrastructure. So when we're making decisions about investments, we always look at what are each country offering and how do they compete against each other. I think it's very important. I think all of you can put examples on what do you see on supply chain. And when that capacity comes, that demand comes in the country, are you ready to actually support the industry on time? Are we going to have enough money on time to support the deployment of the construction? And are you going to have enough capacity for us to actually deploy at the speed that we need it?
And João, one final thought.
Sure. Well, the market sentiment from a financial perspective is really good about the sector, about the possibilities. But however, we understand that there are some key items that need to be surpassed from a regulatory perspective in order to make this agenda of investments and financing alternatives be fulfilled. So we are ready. We have a deep pocket. In my view, we can see we've compared to other infrastructure like energy, sanitation. So we have huge amounts of money flowing to this infrastructure segments. But and the same would like to happen to the infrastructure. But it's a matter of having the regulatory framework duly built for not only for Brazil but for the region, and this is something that will allow us to move forward.
And then I'll promise one more question around this topic, and then we go back into the industry itself. Whilst my colleague Jack and I will bring this event together, a lot of the conversations that we had with a lot of people in this room was that at some point Brazil and other Latin American countries will have to choose between the US and China. Again, the world is changing. One, is that coming up on your conversations with people in Brazil, people outside Brazil? And if it is, how worried? What's the opportunity? And how do you prepare for something like that? So let's say come 2027, 28, some sort of policy comes out that says Brazil is going to go this way. We're now going to work with Chinese manufacturers, or we're going to just focus on the US.
I don't believe in that, to be honest with you. I don't believe that's a matter of choice. That is a matter of keeping neutrality in a way that you can support both. In what I really see is that what won't happen is Chinese money with the combination of Chinese money, Chinese gear with American customers, American money for Chinese. That won't happen. But the countries like Brazil, they are big enough with several opportunities to explore what we always did. Since the 70s, we did that. So you have Chinese customers, you have Chinese infrastructure, you have American infrastructure. So I really don't believe that we are going to get to a point where it's about black and white. Shades of gray, or maybe black and white will live together in different places, but within the country. That's my hope. As an entrepreneur and as a Brazilian, that's my hope. That we have we act like grown-ups and understand that that's not Cold War. Looks like, but I think not here.
Gotta have faith. Anyone wants to add anything? Maybe you have manufacturer perspective.
Look, I don't think we need to go to one or the other. It's one and the other. A company like us, our biggest market is the US. Biggest market also for data center. Our second biggest market is China, and also very big in data center. So we don't need to choose. In Brazil, I hope we will not get to this level. And then, it's already said, Brazil have a tradition of not picking a side. We'll see, but we don't see this as a barrier now.
From a developer perspective, for me, it's like if it's two separate companies serving two separate sets of customers with two separate sources of capital, with two separate designs, architectures, and etc. That's the only way I see this working.
And João, were you going to add something? Or?
Actually, from a financial perspective, we like good projects, we like good returns for sure, and we are here to support our clients. And we, despite the geopolitical issues globally, we understand that we have room for both sides, you know, to fulfill the agenda in Brazil and in the region. So we have all the economic environment, we have the natural resources in order to become a global player in this arena. So I don't think it's an issue for financial market or investors.
All right, well, let's make it easy now. Let's talk about generative AI and your clouds. And especially you, Miguel, because you represent one of the largest cloud players in the world. What we are seeing in the US is a tremendous investment towards developing generative AI, towards developing new neoclouds. I mean, Stargate alone is $500 billion, plus there's several more billions announced in the last 7 months alone, over $1 trillion announced. What lessons can a country like Brazil and Latin America learn from what's happening in the US around generative AI, neoclouds, large-scale investments?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, you know, what we learned when all this huge capacity of GenAI came to the US, everybody got surprised. Everybody's going to go get land at the same time. Everybody's going to go procure power at the same time. Everybody's going to go contract electricians, plumbers. So the market got saturated. So what can we do in Latin America? Well, you're seeing what's happening. You know it's coming. You have to create the framework. When that demand materializes in the country, you're ready to support it. It won't be a discussion of one provider, two providers. It will be a country fight. It will be do we have enough capital to support all the amount of projects that we have? If we have enough components to support the data centers, and are we going to have enough GCs to support and build data centers on time? That's the lessons learned we got from what happened in the US. And as you can see, in North America, even most of the capacity that it's delivering in 2027, 2028, because it's already happening. So get ready in South America when the conditions are given, when the demand materializes, you're going to be able to support that.
Being late, as we always are, in this case, is a good thing. It's a chance to learn and to prepare.
I wish that's how the Europeans saw it. We don't see it that way.
And I think the second part of the question, the neo-cloud thing, I think Marcus, you're in a better position than me to explain that.
I think it's a whole different play. And when we see, I'm sitting on the infrastructure. People are sitting even under this with the power generation. So we are on this layer. Then you have a layer that is pure processing capacity. The neo-clouds, the GPU as a service, and etc. They serve customers that are willing to deploy their own platform on top of this. This is a segment, the same way we had bare metal, infrastructure as a services, and etc. But this is one type of customer that will require something. I think it's more a transition than something that is definitive, at least the way we are seeing big customers moving. And then you have companies like AWS, Google, providing a full stack for their customers to deploy. And it will vary from customer to customer, from client to client, the approach, but it's not very different than what we had with the private cloud and public cloud and the combined ecosystem. So it's a combination of the best of both. Will serve the customer better. We see some movement, some real movements on GPU as a service companies coming to the country, asking for projects for small AI factories yet. We don't see this happening yet at big size, but they are definitely moving, and they are basically preoccupied with the lack of infrastructure in North America. This race between Amazon, Microsoft, and all these developers, 57 new data center companies were born in the US only this year, 57. That's a lot. So if each of them are searching for a gigawatt, there is not that in the country for a decade. So they start looking for other places, and I'm assuming it will be easy for them to deploy elsewhere because the requirements for the companies that are accessing the services are lower than the ones that are buying a full stack platform. But it's definitely, for us on the infrastructure, definitely a segment of the market that will generate demand.
Joe, and I want to go back to lessons learned. One of the lessons learned I can mention for both investors, developers, and supply chain is be flexible with design. I think when you think about what happened in the last 2 years in technology advancement, not only on chips, on racks, and we were talking about data centers that were air-cooled with 10 kilowatt racks 5 years ago. that increased to now 85 kilowatt racks, liquid cooling technology. So if you're a developer and you come to the table and say, hey, this is my design and I'm not willing to give you any flexibility on my design and this is the only product I can offer you, that puts you in a position where you're boxing me out and basically saying, I'm not willing to change my design because of you. So because the technology is advancing so rapidly, you have to go into the market and say, hey, I'm ready to offer you this, but we're also open to do this. Maybe it won't be a full colocation building, but it could be a build-to-suit facility where you build to my requirement and you operate it for us. You have to come to the table with that flexibility. You have to come to the table with flexibility and financing. You cannot just say, hey, I can only do a deal with you if the deal is 20 years. That might not be the case. I may not need 20 years to the whole thing. So in terms of how you develop the whole framework, you have to come with flexibility because the technology is changing very rapidly.
Let me react, João. I think Miguel raised very good points. When we talk about lessons learned, all these lessons were probably fastest learned in the last 4 years. And flexibility, again, when we talk about flexibility and agility, companies need to learn very fast because the environment is going super fast, right? And I would say supply chain got it. After COVID, then, the whole supply chain was needing to adapt. Then you have the whole AI boom coming also at the same time. Today some supply, in our case, we have a full global visibility on how is it going. When we talk about resources, you mentioned very well about people, more than the material itself. Material would be there, but the people that are working on the co-design, on flexible design, on all the engineering part, so where these people is, and global companies have this strength, right? And today is not for Brazil, it's not for South America, but it's for the globe. And these people will be or are already there where the needs are, anticipating this need. I think both sides need to, to look for a new, and I'm talking on behalf probably of some of my colleagues, competitors also, how we work together better in order to make sure that the full line, accomplish what they are looking for. And it's a new way of engaging also.
In the future is and will be uncertain. So requirements are changing every 6 months. Every 6 months.
Every 2 weeks.
You are exactly going to get shorter.
It's impossible to assume that we know everything today and we are now, as we did in the past 10 years ago, building a data center that we know now the demand for the following 10 years. It won't happen. It won't happen. So the designs that are future-proof are a must, not a nice to have.
And I was going to ask, because you mentioned 85 kilowatts. I mean, you go to the US, and some people are talking about 120, 140. Some conversations are reaching the 200, 300, and even once I've heard 500, which is something beyond.
The latest NVIDIA architecture is for 125 to 175.
Yeah.
That's already there.
Yeah, and that already exists, exactly. So everything's changing really fast. And if you look at Canada, there's some very interesting projects in Canada, and how the architecture of the data center itself, the cement used to build the data center, has had to change to accommodate all this. But João, would you like to add anything on the financial side, or we can talk about financial stability a bit later?
Don't tell him it's uncertain.
No.
With uncertainty,
we won't talk about costs.
He said he got the money, so.
You don't have to pay the bill today.
We'll keep growing.
Waiting for the project.
Great, take or pay contracts, 10 years, AAA.
It will make you money. It'll make you money.
Forget
Whatever
about the
happens.
uncertainty, João.
But let's talk about developing infrastructure in Brazil. So you started Scala 5 years ago. It's a big dream. One personal question to begin with. Don't have to spend too much time there. But has the dream become bigger than the original dream? Yes. And two, so you've built 200 megawatts so far. You've got about 6 gigawatts in the pipeline over the next few years. How does that all add up to the current demand that you see in the markets and the predictions of demand? And then how do you all kind of come together to build these 6 gigawatts? And if you have a timeline for those 6, that'll be great to share as well. But how do you all then come together to use and to build and to finance, pay the bill, and make the dream happen, including AI City in Rio?
Rio is Alessandro. Our AI city is El Dorado.
El Dorado, sorry.
Now,
I have to get my Brazilian geography.
Two AI cities in the country. First is ours in El Dorado, but now we have a wonderful city in Rio as well.
I have to get my Brazilian geography
it's a nice
sorted.
Place to be. I'm booking my ticket there to see if it's really marvelous. And maybe I'll be there. I will land there as well.
Well, I know where Rio, São Paulo, and Brasilia are, so the rest.
Let me tell you, just give you numbers. Our underwriting case with our investors was for 55 megawatts by 2028. We ended 2024 with 159. We spent all the money that we could spend 4 years ahead. And the shift came with the pandemic. We saw our underwriting case was playing catch up. So requirements for lower latency, economical instability, and regulation, expectations of regulations show us that Latin America was 1/17 behind US in terms of when you compare demand versus infrastructure availability, 1/8 of Europe. So by playing catch up, we saw this combination of enterprise customers plus hyperscale customers coming to the country, looking for the country still as an edge, something that was more regional than anything, and we projected 55. When pandemic came, we saw pandemic acting as a catalyst, and we shifted the plan for 120 megawatts, which was huge at the time. When we shifted from colo, shared buildings to single tenants, we went from single sites to campuses. And then the world shifted, and as I told you, we like to split our portfolio into portions. What is inside the money, which we know that we are going to develop, which is our attack portfolio, is roughly 1.6 gigawatts of total power, 143 gigawatts of IT capacity. That is spread across São Paulo, Campinas, Jundiaí, Fortaleza, Rio, Porto Alegre in Brazil, plus 3 sites in Chile and 1 site in Mexico, and 3 places in Colombia that we haven't developed yet, but we have the land and the power availability for that when the time comes. The remaining portion is about the dream. So this is not dream anymore. This is about working hard to capture this, which is not too much different than Odata and Ascenti. So if you combine these companies, you're talking roughly about 600 megawatts of capacity, serving hyperscales plus big enterprise. We see this market shifting from 600 megawatts to 3 gigawatts. This is a certainty. This is going to happen. Everything that goes beyond that for the next decade is about having Brazil and Latin America as a hub for global workloads. And that requires much more than we are just talking here. That requires a full effort of the industry, the governments, the banks, the financial, et cetera, and the geopolitics to be favored. We still see that as viable. The combination of renewables, the combination of the grid that is already there with 12 gigawatts, 6 gigawatts of power being generated without customer in the following years will create a big problem in the electrical sector in the country. So we see the stars aligned for that, but we like to work this is reality and the dream and collaborate. The team are looking for both, but we are focused on delivering this while we plan and execute in a different pace for that. But that's huge. And not just us. I think everyone here has the same mindset. Something that is for this year, the next, and 5 years, and something that is for 10 years from now. When we think about both dimensions, they are big enough for everyone in this room. It's much more than has been developed prior. There is a lot of lessons learned. There is a lot of knowledge to be developed. But I think 5 years ago, Latin America and Brazil was completely a dream. We had like 2 to 3 megawatts on the pipeline. Now we have 200 megawatts on the pipeline, 300 megawatts on the pipeline. But this collective effort to change the country, exploring its full potential, is something that not a single company, not a single vendor, not a single bank will be able to. It's a collective effort.
It's a total ecosystem. And actually adding to that as well, even us as a publication, we see the traffic increase almost from nothing 5 years ago to a substantial amount of followers, subscribers, traffic coming from Brazil and other countries in Latin America. So it's definitely changed a lot.
49% of the Fortune 500 in the US, which are responsible for 60 to 70% of cloud workloads as of today, and you can imagine the same for AI, they have public commitments towards sustainability. 49%, which is equal to 6 to 70. US matrix of renewables is only 25% against 92% in this country. So the numbers don't add up. So we need to consider this as a global problem to be solved with a global infrastructure. And this is the place where Brazil, Chile, and others are well positioned to capture more growth.
100%. And the excitement is here. Like Jack was saying, putting this conference together, the way we got embraced by the industry in Brazil has been very different. We've done events in Jakarta, we've done events in a lot of places in Europe. We've done events in US with different companies. It's been very, very different what's happening here. Even the way people want to engage is very different. But I'm going to go to you, João, and it will come down the panel, but to give you some on-air time as well. When it comes to financing investment, how can we widen the pool of stakeholders of investment? How can we attract more foreign investments, foreign direct investments into the country to then power up, finance, pay the bill of these multi-megawatt campuses and multi-gigawatt campuses?
Well, I remember 5 years ago when we started understanding the sector, this arena was financed fully by international banks. So local banks didn't have any kind of exposure. And we did a huge education in our credit teams, product teams, in order to have the understanding the way it's financing. The margin is amazing, but the payback is even better when you have the quality of the contracts, AAA, backed by AAA contracts. And what we learned during this time is that, first of all, you need to have a robust capital structure. And when we analyze all those stakeholders behind those assets, we have very good quality in terms of stakeholders and the capital invested. And as this balanced mix is something fundamental in order to provide the appetite to the financing market. And as of today, I can tell you that local banks, they are a relevant player in this arena, not only in Brazil, but in the region, with more than $5 billion in exposure in the digital infra, but with room to do it even more. And in order to scale this kind of funding alternatives for us is a key element to engage the capital markets. So only to provide some numbers here, the local DCM, local debt capital markets, last year issued something around 700 billion Brazilian reais. 40% of this amount was destinated to finance infrastructure through the debêntures incentivadas, for example. This year, this number has already grown to 45%, so it's growing considerably. So there is efficiency, and we are talking about 10, 15, up to 20 years in terms of tenure, so it's fully engaged with this kind of long-term contracts. And also, the international markets, when you see the bonds, we see some players like JBS, like Embraer, like Vale, issuing transactions up to 40 years. So again, it's totally possible, it's totally feasible when you have a good business case, when you have predictability in terms of cash flow, we have great counterparties, when you have all this environment engaged, it's possible to raise billions and billions of dollars to put money not only from a financing perspective, but mainly from an investor perspective. As of today, there is a lack of visibility in terms of real numbers of those companies. We know that the numbers, they are huge, but there is a governance to be improved in terms of you need to have investor relations, you need to have a categoria B to have more disclosure to investors. Again, you need to provide the environment in order to allow investors to finance and to put money in this infra sector.
Any other thoughts from the panel on attracting foreign direct investment? No?
I think I saw this shift. When we started Scala, we had only one source of capital, which was equity, our own equity. We have 8 different sources now that varies from equity, banks, vendors, government, energy sector. So as we consolidate the sector, it will be easier for everyone. So I think it's easier for those that are starting today to go through the path that companies like us or Data Center we went through. So green debentures, SLBs, BTSs, BOTs with substation. So the real estate market is looking for that as something. We just completed our second sale leaseback, exploring real estate capital. Because when you look for, and this is part of the education that we did with the banks first. João spent several hours listening to our bullshit on PowerPoints back in time until he believed and we showed that it was real.
Well, at least he believed it in the end.
Yes, believe it, a lot. Several billions believe. But it was all about educating because people are always afraid of what they don't know. We saw that with the Brazilian banks, the local banks in the past, and we are seeing that now with the government, and we are seeing that now with the legislators. So over the past year, we spent several in this room, we spent hundreds of hours in Brasilia, basically educating. educating legislators, educating government, educating several ministers involved with the topic. And the good news is we saw no bad intent. We saw no, it's not something that people don't want. People are afraid because they don't know. So I would say that the collective effort that is of the utmost importance in this room is about educating all the stakeholders about the opportunity, how solid it is, how the contracts work, why this is where you combine the predictability of a real estate, a premium real estate, AAA customers, no vacancy, and etc., with the growth of the tech industry. We are not tech. We are infrastructure, which is great because infrastructure, this country knows how to handle and how to invest, but we grow at the pace of tech. Data centers, fiber, especially data centers and fiber with a little bit of tower there, is the intersection of the premium real estate with the tech. And that should be easily financed.
And it kind of brings the conversation around as well, because we're talking about how sometimes being behind allows you to learn. Actually, in this case, with the government here, you guys seem to be fairly ahead of other markets, because in Europe, for example, there's a lot of conversations, but there's a lot of confusion. So the hundreds of hours they've spent, they're going to need thousands of hours of conversation. Whilst here, you guys go to Brasilia, and then we have a dad going to California. We see other people doing other stuff within the administration. I'm just conscious of time. I know we're running very behind, but I do want to open the floor to one or two questions very quickly. So shoot it. Who wants to ask a question to the panel? No one? Not a volunteer? All right, you ask a question then.
Hi, I'm Gabriela Valente from Infralogic. João, you mentioned the infrastructure bonds, the debêntures incentivadas, and we are seeing a potential ending of the tax exemption of those securities. How do you evaluate that this could affect the financing capabilities of the digital infrastructure segment?
It's an issue, for sure. We are, the market as a whole, we are worried with this kind of turbulence when you change taxes from one day to another day. So, but on the other side, we know that in a country that we are facing a 15% interest rate, if you put some measures, if you add even more cost in this kind of financing, for sure the investment will disappear or will be diminished. So we have the expectations that this kind of taxations in those debêntures incentivadas will not be put in place. So that's our expectations, mainly because this market has been growing considerably, and despite the fact that the margins of this sector, they are huge, but you have a long-term payback, long-term commitment. So in our view, we understand, and that's our view, that this kind of market will not be charged with additional tax.
I think we'll leave it there, but I'll ask one final question, and I'll start with you, João, then I'll finish with you, Marcos. Very, very short answer. So to make each of your dreams happen in Brazil over the next 12 months, what's the one thing that needs to happen?
Start with me?
Yeah. Or do you need time? I think you know already the answer, probably.
Let's start with Marcos.
Yeah, all right, we'll start from this side, Marcos. What's the one thing that needs to happen in the next 12 months?
I think the reality is there. To the dream come true is about data privacy. It's how to protect and allow that customers that wants to deploy infrastructure here, they can offer to their customers data privacy, so we can bring international workloads. So enabling international workloads is what's going to change not only this industry, but the country. What do we project in terms of investment? If all the AI cities that are there into the market, and we explore full portfolio, we are talking about investment that can go up to $100 billion in infrastructure. Our customers, they deploy 3 to 5 times that in computing capacity. So we are talking about $500 billion that can be deployed to serve 10 gigawatts. That's the size of the opportunity only for Brazil. That magnitude, that changes the investment in assets in the country, formation of fixed capital, from 18 to 21%. That changes our GDP from 3% to 4.1% for 10 years. That's the size of this. We can improve the GDP of a country with 10 gigawatts. GDP of Brazil can be improved by 25%. That's the size. And that's all about this collective effort. So I think positioning Brazil as a global hub for AI, that's what needs to happen. This would fulfill not only my dreams, but maybe this room. And the room next year will be twice the size of this because more dreamers will join.
Well, data centers are not just warehouses with servers. They are economic powerhouses. Miguel?
For me, investing, developing, and retaining talent becomes a challenge for Latin America for the dream to become true. As this is a global thing happening, you're going to start seeing your best talent moving to other countries that were faster than our region to develop their different instances where people is going to say, well, if I cannot do it here, I'm going to go there. You can make the dream happen without talent. So I would say for every industry, either on finance, supply chain, infrastructure, hyperscale, we have to continue investing and retaining our local talent.
Very important. It's a global shortage.
It's good to hear this because this is exactly where we're investing. I think, you know, we have been working very close, co-developing architectures for the new racks, the new consumption with people like NVIDIA and others, okay, to make sure that we have this in advance. These architectures that are for our big clients, through our colos partners, through, you know, they are available. The people, global companies probably have less this, you know, you don't have the people here, they will be somewhere, and people will be there, products will be there when the, you know, the things will be there. I think South America and LATAM as a whole is ready for it, okay? We just need to give it. If the overall environment is there, decisions are coming, the money will be there. Frankly, I'm sure the supply chain will be there. So let's trust this happening.
Exciting time. And João, final words.
Oh, my dream here will be that the dream of my colleagues here come true. That's my big, basically. We have.
All right, João, Rafael, Miguel, Marcos, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
We will move on very swiftly to the next session. So thank you so much for listening, sitting in and listening to this conversation. And I hope you enjoy the rest of the day. And I hope to see as many of you at the drinks later on. Thank you.
Thank you.